Well, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you guys are having a wonderful Saturday morning. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today on this beautiful Saturday here from Texas. So, wherever you are, hopefully, like I said, your coffee's nice and hot. Maybe you're having a great breakfast. And most importantly, if you're watching us, I want to thank you for making us part of your amazing morning. So, today, I am really excited to have an amazing guest. Today, I have Dr. Sarah Thomas with us this morning, and we're going to talk about educator, real life stories, and edupreneur stories. So I'm just so excited to have Dr. Thomas here with us. Or Sarah, may I call you Sarah? All
Please
right, we're
do,
having
please. Yeah.
okay, Sarah. Yes, so Sarah, so we've got Sarah here, and I'm just so excited, and again, just having a great conversation here with her today. And guys, if you're watching us today, if you're leaving some comments, please use hashtag PLF in all caps. That way, we can put you in for a drawing for some of the new sticker swag for My EdTech Live. So I'm just really excited about that. So again, I'm excited to have Dr. Sarah Thomas here today, who is the founder of the EduMatch organization, which promotes connection and collaboration among educators around the world. But she also serves as a regional technology coordinator in a large district in Maryland. So we're going to get the origin story here, guys, today, the way she kind of came up and the amazing things that she's doing today. And of course, we're going to be talking about EduMatch and just the a wonderful array of authors that are available under this publishing umbrella. So I'm just so excited about that. So, Sarah, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing great, Fonz. How about yourself?
Oh, doing wonderful and excited to have you here again. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you might be on a little break, but thank you so much for being here this morning. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. All right, well, Sarah, let's get down to it. Longtime follower myself, and seeing your work, all the great things that you are doing. Dallas, I want to know, where did the story of Sarah Thomas get started? How did you land in education?
That is such a good question. So, originally, I was not in education. I was in radio, TV, film. That was in my undergrad major was radio, TV, film. But maybe around freshman, sophomore year, my mom started teaching middle school. She'd been an educator since I was a kid, but she'd been in different roles. Teaching at university to pre-service teachers, working with the DC Public Schools channel when I was a kid, having a show there. And so when she actually went into the middle school classroom, I started coming down to volunteer. And I was just like, man, this is really where I want to be. But I'm deep in my major, deep. And I was just like, okay, so it's too late to switch, but maybe somehow I'll find my way to this. And what really cemented it for me was when I met the AV technician at her school. And I was just like, oh, this is something that that I could really see myself getting into. So anyway, fast forward, graduated, bachelor's in radio, TV, film, re-enrolled in the master's program for intercultural communication. And I came down the stairs one day. It was serendipity. There was a poster on the wall. They were looking for teachers alternative certification for a nearby district, and I was just like, all right, well, let me go ahead and shoot my shot. And so I applied. They accepted me into the program, and I went through a summer institute of kind of some pedagogical strategies, things of that nature, for the month of July. And then in August, then I started teaching. I kind of jumped the gun and decided to place myself instead of waiting for them to place me. Those first couple years were super rough, but I learned quite a bit. And as the years went on, I learned about lots of different things, learned about different strategies, different tools. I got better in my own skin, with my students, getting to build relationships with them. And then once I got connected, it was a wrap. Like I was just like, I love this. This is my jam. This is where I want to be. So yeah, so now this is almost year 18. In August it'll be year 18, and just absolutely loving it.
Wow, that is great. And that's such a wonderful story. I mean, just the way that, again, going back and just seeing the way things were. And then now just saying, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go for it and do it. And, and that's very similar to my story. And that's very similar, I think, to a lot of stories of people whom I follow is that, education was not their number one, but they either fell into it due to, again, somebody inspiring them or just seeing the way things were. And then once you're in there, it's like, you just fell absolutely in love with it in the process. And not saying that it was easy, of course, because like you mentioned, and I'd like to kind of go back to that, like you said, those first couple of years being rough. If your today self right now can go back to yourself when you first started, what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh man, so that was 2004 when I started, and there weren't as many things available as there are now. Like as far as support goes for educators, but if at the time, there was a way to get connected, then I would say definitely, get connected. Like that to me has been the biggest game changer in my entire career. Just, having that network, just getting to know people on a deeper level and having that support for when times get rough. And it's great to connect with people within your school, within your district, and also connecting with people outside of it just to see what they're doing, learning from them, and being able to prop each other up when things get really really difficult.
And I agree with you 100% on that. The power of connection is great. And just like Amanda here's posting the hashtag PLF, so just really excited about that. But yes. And I think that that's very important, for myself. I saw a turn, for the better when I started being connected, not only within my building or even within the district, but also outside, putting your stuff out on social media, reaching out to people, getting connected with genuine educators that are out there that are willing to help was really what made my practice a lot better. You get that confidence. And like you said, you have somebody that you can turn to sometimes even during rough times. And although you may be miles and miles apart, it seems like you're definitely a close knit family. And it's always great to have people there to support. So I do agree with you. Being a connected educator has definitely been, for me, the most amazing thing and being able to connect with people globally as well. And so that's really exciting. So thank you so much for sharing that because we definitely see that and the power of connection there. And I believe you did do some writing on this too as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, sure. So there's been a couple different places where I've like written about it and things of that nature. I would say like one thing that we do annually is the EduMatch anthology, where people submit like different chapters and stuff like that. But we started that back in 2016. And I remember just kind of, I know that we're going to be talking about EduMatch later, but just kind of wrote about that. But I would say that mainly like my main form of communication about that topic has been I guess an ISTE Ignite I did back in 2017 where I really got to talk about it on stage, and I was just honored to have that opportunity. And I was just so happy that that it that the networking, the connections, that idea really resonated with folks, and folks who had been doing it for a long time. They were just like, yeah, this is how I feel as well. So that feedback, just getting that feedback was just really amazing. But yeah, I would say also within our anthology, that's just kind of like an example of it like living, with all these people submitting chapters of what they do, what they're learning about every year, our EduMatch snapshot in the education, and just compiling that and learning from everybody's practice has just been just amazing to see.
Man, that is wonderful. And I love it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about all of these opportunities that you've had because I know if people may not be familiar with your work, you do a lot of national presentations, global presentations, with ISTE and through EduMatch and through a lot of other entities that you do work with. And we'll definitely get to that because there might be some educators that are out there that this might be something that they're inspired by or they would love to do, but maybe some of them may not know where to start. But I think we already hit at least that first major point, which is the power of connection and connecting with other educators that can definitely help, help you in that aspect and share your work and get ideas from too as well. So I'm really excited about that. So let's talk a little bit, let's go back again to, Sarah Thomas, coming up and, getting your work and starting, and then all of a sudden, you're connecting, you're putting your work out there. How important would you say that social media has, how important has that component been into or with your current role, and of course moving on into the jobs and the opportunities that you've had? Can you tell us maybe some experiences through that as well?
Yeah, totally. It's really been a game changer for me. And I know I keep using that phrase, but it really has. Like it has been the number one thing that has had me kind of pivot. Just that access to so many different people, just around the country, around the world. And just being exposed to different modes of thinking as well. Because one thing that I really love about being able to connect with other folks is that there might be somebody on paper that is completely the opposite of me. But once we get connected, once we start finding out, more about each other, then often around that overlap where we might have like some things where we really 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 are in sync with, really 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 see eye to eye with. That's a basis where you can form all kinds of relationships, and you can have difficult conversations that are difficult, that are difficult conversations for a reason, that you can't normally have with strangers without a whole lot of pushback. And a lot of times these are the conversations that move the needle. So I mean, it's just been so valuable to me, professionally, personally. Like I feel like I'm a different person from when I first got connected back in 2013, I would say. So now it's coming up on 10 years. It's crazy how quickly it goes by, but actually coming up on 9, because a week from when we're recording this episode, then that will be my 9th year anniversary of being on Twitter. So it went by very quickly,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's really been an amazing experience. I'm so grateful for everyone I've connected with.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, and I second that. So, for any educators that are out there that are watching that currently may not be connected or are thinking about being connected, and you're listening to this episode, listen to what Sarah's saying, and of course myself too as well. Please make sure that you do connect with Sarah on Twitter, connect with me on Twitter, and connect with other educators that have that similar passion and that similar viewpoint. And like I said, I agree with Sarah. I think one of the biggest things for me in my career, was when I first started being a connected educator, and that was back really in about 2015, 2016, around that time. And then it just completely changed the teacher that I was, the educator that I was, because I got to see things from different perspectives. And that's one thing that you mentioned, Sarah. Being able to see things from a different lens, from a different viewpoint, and maybe some things going on in your current role that you have those difficult conversations that maybe people don't want to have within your building community or within your district, but you can reach out to others and say, hey, if how are you all handling this, what's going on here, what are some ways to overcome this? And it's amazing how willing people are to how willing they are to help. And I think that's something that is definitely very important, to have that support system. So definitely agree. So make sure you get connected, guys, because it'll make a difference, for sure, in your practice. All right. So now, talking a little bit more about those opportunities, Sarah, now you're coming up, you're working in the school. Where did that passion now then to move up to that next level, where did that come from? Was that something that you already had intended? Did you think maybe, no, this is where I want to be in the classroom, for a good while? Or, what, let's see what else is out there, because now you're working as a technology coordinator. So what inspired that next move?
Yeah. So I absolutely love my time in the classroom. Like I was there for 10 and a half years. And especially the later years, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is just so amazing. Like I love having the connection with the students, with their parents, things of that nature. Um, Around year, I would say year 5 or 6, then I had started at the school where I spent the longest time, a French immersion school. And at that time, there was a grant in my district for sharing technology with Educators program. That's what it was called, and it was put on by this team called the Technology Training Team. And from there, I learned so much, and it was a pivotal time in my career because this was like after the rough years that I talked about. So I had like 3 rough years. I had one like okay year, and then I went to this French immersion school, and just the principal was amazing and empowering, and just everything just took off from there. And that was the time when I connected with the technology training team, and we got accepted for the sharing technology with educators program, and they taught us there. This was like 2008, I want to say 2008ish. They taught us about podcasting. They taught us about at the time, wikis were really big. Let me see what else. There were a few other things. I think VoiceThread, and there was one other thing I can't remember. But I was just introduced to all of this really cool stuff that I had never seen, never heard of before, and I was just like, whew, mind blown. Especially coming from the radio, TV, film background. So I started doing this stuff, and then they had a program. I want to say maybe a year or two later, that was the Technology Leader Academy. So they accepted me in there, and this was incredible for me because I didn't see myself as a leader. I had like the baggage from the first few years that were really rough, and I kind of saw myself as a quote unquote struggling teacher still. But after a few years where I was able to put in practice the things that I learned and really build up my skill set and really learn from and with my students, um, then just that validation, being accepted into that Technology Leadership Academy, it really changed my perspective of myself and what was capable and what was just possible for me. And so at that point, I was just like, these people have done amazing things for me. And if I ever get a chance to join that team, then I will be honored to be in it. And lo and behold, I'm trying not to get all misty here, but lo and behold, fast forward a few years, and they did have an opening. And so I applied, and they accepted me, and I've been there now for the past going on 7 years. And I mean, I'm still as honored as I was on day one to join, and be able to be part of such a team that has really changed me, and supported me and just shifted my entire perspective.
Man, that is so wonderful. And that's just so great, and again, a testimony to just the hard work. And then of course, working hard to getting into this role, this position, and then obviously showing what you can do and the amazing things that you were able to accomplish as well. And then being able to move into this current role now. And now you kind of give back at exponentially, I would say, because sometimes, in the classroom, you're working with your kiddos, you're in the classroom, you've got either 30 kids or depending if you've got rotation. But now it's like, now you're working with the teachers, and some of the things that you get to do now, you're affecting so many more people in such a positive way. And that's really exciting. So I'm really excited about that. So 7 years now in there. And I'm sure that those first couple of years, how did that transition go from classroom to this next role? I'm kind of curious about that. Was it kind of like, whoa, like this is way too fast, or like, hey, you know what? I'm like a fish in water here and I'm good to go. So tell us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, the transition was like super cool. It was a lot more easy than I would have anticipated. The reason being that when I started getting connected, well, first, actually, let me back it up. So, after Technology Leadership Academy, I started doing CPD classes for the technology training team. So, in our district, I don't know if it's across the U.S., but we have CPD credits to recertify. So I started teaching some of those classes for the team, and so I started really getting to know them, and staying in contact with them, they really became not just, not just people in my district, not just central office people, but my friends. I felt like really built a connection and a relationship with the team. And at the same time, once I got connected and I started doing presentations, conferences, things of that nature, then it started, that is the majority of what I do now. So, I felt very kind of prepared, already knowing most of the people on the team, and also having done these presentations, these conferences for a few years before I joined the team. And it was a very smooth transition. I would say the hardest part, and it still remains the hardest part to this day, is just missing the kids, because just, oh my goodness, like the last batch of kids I had, especially, I had them at the French immersion school from the time they were in second grade until the time they were in eighth grade. And, so I left at the same time that they did. I actually was in a high school for about 4 months before I joined the technology training team. And, I still got to see some of them, but I really, really missed them. But now, I have the opportunity to actually help cover classes, because I mean it's bittersweet. Like I love being back with the kids, but it is because of a teacher shortage. So, just acknowledging that part of it as well. Um, but but I am really loving the connections with the students and with their parents, so I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds, getting to do my job as a regional technology coordinator, and also getting to build relationships with a new group of students.
There you go. Yeah, and that's so important, and that's so great. Like, because you already did have that classroom experience, so now that combination of that classroom experience, technology coordinator, it's, I mean, and that's amazing, and that's what I love about my transition too as well, from going to the classroom and going into instructional tech, is just having that skill set that at any moment you can turn on teacher mode and you're back, because it's within us. We did it for so long, and although things may have changed slightly, to me, it's always been all about relationships. So as long as you can establish those relationships and that connection first and foremost, build that community. I mean, the kids are definitely going to be working, and we're going to be doing it together. And that's, I think, to me, was always the biggest and the most important part. So let's talk a little bit about this, because you did mention this, and I mean, we have to talk about it because it's something that is already out in the news. It's been out there for a while, like you said. Some of the things that you're doing, filling in due to a teacher shortage. How has that been for you personally? I mean, I want to know what your feelings behind that are, and then, of course, how has it affected your current district in any way?
Yeah, totally. So I know that this is like national occurrence, if not international, but these last few years have been hard. They've been hard on everybody. And, I'm going on Twitter, just scrolling down the timeline. I'm seeing how people are feeling. Like it's a pulse check to see how people are feeling. And I mean, there's so many great things with our field, but also, we have to acknowledge that right now this is a very difficult time for so many people for so many reasons. And it's very challenging. So with this shortage, I'm just hoping that something turns around soon, because yeah, it's really been a challenge nationwide. But I would say that personally and professionally, then at first I was a little apprehensive, to be honest, about going back into the classroom. I was a little apprehensive, but like you said, it's kind of like riding a bike and you don't lose it. I was able to kind of, catch my speed, but yeah, at the beginning I was a little apprehensive because it was outside my content area. And there was one time where we went where we helped out with classes before, when there were a lot of absences, and that particular day did not go so well for me. So I was just like, oh my goodness, maybe I lost it, maybe I lost my touch. But being back with them, with the middle schoolers, it's just an amazing experience. I absolutely love to connect with them. Their energy, like, being away from them, then it just kind of felt like that youthful energy was something I was missing in my life. But now I have it. They're catching me up. Like, I was joking before, I was saying that I'm kind of getting old because now I'm not hip to anything that's out there anymore. But they're catching me up. So I'm learning about I'm learning about what's hot in the world right now, in their world, I should say. And I've really, really missed that. And also just their parents as well. Like, I've been able to meet a few of their parents who've been super sweet, super supportive. And I absolutely love when different stakeholders come together and just, build up the community, the school community together. Yeah.
Man, that's wonderful. And that's so great to hear, stakeholders coming in and parents, that's very important too, as well. Being able to, have the parents feel welcome coming in, to all the schools, working with them, just open communication that really does make a big difference, So that's really exciting. But it's nice to hear that story too, because sometimes, as adults, we're a little bit out of the loop to what's hip. But that's one thing that I really appreciated about my students when I was in the classroom. They always kept you up to date, or you had to push yourself to be up to date because you want to make sure that what they're doing and what they're talking about is something that is appropriate. So yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right.
For
Well,
sure.
now let's kind of transition a little bit. So now, you talked to us about, kind of your origin story coming up, what you've been doing, how you moved up. And now I want to know, where did the idea, of this next step in doing EduMatch come from? What sparked that notion to say, hey, you know what, this is something I want to do, and you've grown it, to be
Mm,
very well known. And like I mentioned earlier, just the amount of authors that you have, the books, and of course the PD. You guys are a PD partner also as well, and you offering PD, nationwide. So tell me a little bit about that story. Where did this idea come from?
yeah, yeah, totally. This was like almost the little engine that never was, I guess, if I'm like stealing a children's book name. But it was just a random idea on a Friday night. I was on Boxer with one of my buddies, with Franz Davis, also in Texas. And so we were chatting, and so she said something, because at the time she was, I believe, a district math coach, if I'm not mistaken. And she was talking about, like, one of the teachers in her district wanted to do gamification with fantasy sports. So I was just like, okay, well, I just had this conversation with my cousin, who used to be a New York math teacher, and he just gave me a book about gamification with math and fantasy sports. And I was just like, y'all should like talk, y'all should meet or whatever. And we should also bring in Chris Aviles, who you've had on your show. I was just listening to that episode like yesterday. But I was just like, yeah, three of you should get together. Y'all should have a conversation. And so at that point, I was like, wait a minute, hold up. Is there something that will connect person A with person B with person C? And along similar interests, and just having a conversation and seeing what comes from there. So I looked, of course, there were Twitter chats at the time, there were Boxer groups, there were Facebook groups, but nothing that directly made those introductions. So I was just like, all right, all right. So I signed up for a Twitter account. EduMatch, like, one word was taken, so I put edu_match. And at that point, I just put together a Google form and was just like, is anybody interested in making some new connections? And so someone in Australia was like, yeah, I'll do it. So actually, no, I take that back. The Google form came later, but in a DM, I asked him to tell me more about himself. So everything that he sent me in this very short bio, I just kind of hashtagged and tweeted out a sentence, like maybe every 3 or 4 hours, and just put different hashtags on it. And at the end of the day, I was just like, how did this work for you? And he's just like, I met about 20 people. I was just like, cool. So he was just like, just keep it going. So I was just like, all right. So at that point, I set up the Google form and a website, and people started signing up. So I did this EduMatch Person of the Day thing for about maybe 2 years, where eventually, as folks signed up, then the database, we had this database on Google Sheets, and I would just tag folks and be like, yeah, connect with this person, our person of the day who's into blah blah blah, just as you are. And so did that for a while. Um, Other stuff started happening, so it became unsustainable. But as people joined, they brought their ideas. Like somebody was like, "Do a Voxer groups," and then somebody was like, "Do a Facebook group, do a podcast, do a Twitter chat," and all of these different ideas. So I tried them out. They were good. So when they were good, then I kept them. And so the Twitter forum kind of fell away, but started doing other things like tweet and talk, which was
All right. We just had a little bit of technical difficulties here, but no worries, guys. We'll make sure that we get Dr. Sarah back here. And
okay.
there
I'm
we
so
go.
sorry about that.
Hey, no worries. It's
Okay.
all good. If you could just go back just a little bit, that
Oh,
way we can continue there with the tweet and talk and all that good stuff.
oh yeah, totally, totally. So with the tweet and talk, we would do that Sundays. Twitter chat, with a video panel of folks just kind of talking on a topic. Did that for a while. In the Voxer group, then well, I would say that we did that for a few years, probably like 4 or 5 years, but it just, once the pandemic hit, then and we had like so much going on, that was something that we cut, but we're gonna be bringing back. But also in the Voxer group, then we were talking one day about bucket lists. What do you want to do before you retire? And so many people were like, write a book, write a book. So that's when our EduMatch snapshot in education started, that I talked about a little earlier. And then from there, people were asking about doing solo books. So we started EduMatch Publishing at that point. And, that continued to kind of grow. And a huge shout out to the team that's behind it. So we've together we've been able to put out, I don't even know how many books, probably around 85 at this point, 85, 90, something like that. And as you said, the PD part came along shortly thereafter, and somewhere in between we had the nonprofit that we started up. So shout out to the whole board of directors there as well. And we just gave away our round 2 of funding for the mini grants. So and we'll be following up with a round 3 soon. But we funded a couple of educator projects that they're doing with their students. Both of them, it's kind of a coincidence, but both of them ended up dealing with podcasting and or video. So, um, but we just put that grant out and funded those. So we're gonna have another round open, and yeah, so we do lots of different things. Work with districts as well. Work with Google. We're a Google PD partner, and we do a lot of book studies, webinars, even consulting, and just lots of different things. So I'm just really happy and blessed that so many amazing people are working behind us to kind of keep it going and keep building and keep growing it out.
Excellent. No, and I'm looking here at the catalog, and you do have, I think it's 82 that I counted, 82, that are up there right now. But I mean, just the amount of authors that you have and the types of books that you have, it's just amazing. There's definitely something for everybody here, and just all of these written by just some wonderful educators that I've seen, and some of them have even been on the show. I've had Valerie Sousa on the show, and then of course my favorite, I call him the edu chef, which is Mike Earnshaw, from Punk Rock Classrooms and things of that. And he's just amazing, and his book was great too as well. So it's just amazing what you're doing here. But what I loved about this, Sarah, was just the whole premise of, let's connect you with somebody that has that similar interest. And as you can see here, at least I see the vision here also, is just promoting that sharing, promoting that connection. And that's something that is so important. And I think that, from your experience, I mean, it just transitioned well into this vision that you have of, hey, we've got something for everybody, and we're going to connect you with an author, and there's something here to meet your needs. And it's just amazing because the amount of books that are there and the publishers who you have are just amazing people to definitely connect with. So I encourage you all, please make sure that if you are on Twitter and you haven't connected quite yet, or you're trying to still find your way around Twitter, just go to EduMatch. Also, just find out all those authors and follow them because they definitely put out some great stuff. And don't forget to also follow Dr. Sarah Thomas as well because she's definitely got some great things. So, again, going back to EduMatch Vision Publishing, I did put the website out here on the chat. It will be also in the show notes. That way, people can go ahead and visit. You know, I am just blown away because this is just something that I love to see when people, have this passion and they really just do something with it. And oftentimes, people might hesitate a little bit because imposter syndrome kicks in and they're like,
Yeah.
well, no, I mean, but that's Sarah Thomas and she's got this and she's already doing that and she already did this. Let me ask you something, Sarah. What advice would you give? Because I definitely want to inspire people by your story because it's been amazing to see what you've done, what you've accomplished, and what has come to fruition. So, if there are any educators that are out there that would love to follow in your steps or have this vision, whether it's something similar to publishing or maybe just taking that next step in their career, what would be some advice from your personal experience that you can share to inspire them?
Yeah, totally. I would say that, I mean, we're not different, like, um, whoever might be feeling that way and me, we have those same similar feelings. So I can definitely relate to what they're feeling, but the the thing is just to take that step, just to take that first step. Because I remember, sometimes having ideas and I'm just like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if somebody blah 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 blah. And then what if that somebody is you? Like the person who is close to that problem of practice, is probably the one of the best people to get the job done. And I say one of the best because it's sweeter when you collaborate, So but if you see a challenge, then definitely take that step to fix it. And if you're inspired to do something, then you might say, why me? Well, why not you? Definitely just go ahead, take that leap. I really believe in oh goodness, I have not said this in a while, so I forgot the phrase that I was using, but jumping in feet first. Jumping in feet first, like they do at the pool. You don't want to. Some people like to dive in head first, and I mean that's cool. That's your thing. More power to you. Me, I'm a little more cautious, but definitely jumping in feet first has been just something that has really helped me out. Assessing all the risks, and if the risks are, if they're at a level that isn't going to pose any kind of harm or do anything like that, then I would say go for it. Because if it scares you, then that's probably because you are fully capable of doing it. And because if you tell me right now go run like 150 miles, I'm not going to be afraid of that because I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that right now, right? Like that's not in my wheelhouse. But if somebody, tells me to go do, I don't know, go run a mile right now, and I'm be like, why? you know, like I don't want to do that today, like that would frighten me because that's something that I know that I'm capable of doing, but might be afraid to do today. Um, so I would definitely take that fear as a sign, as a positive sign. Sometimes fear tells you to stay away from things, but sometimes fear tells you to move towards things. So, I would definitely examine that fear.
Excellent. Well, that's some great advice. So, for all of you that are listening or going to be rewatching this episode or listening to this episode, you heard it here. Some great advice from Dr. Sarah Thomas. And again, hopefully, if, in this episode, you've definitely heard real life educator stories. You've heard her origin story, where she's coming from, where she's been, where she's at. And I know that this is not, where she's going to be for a while. So, Sarah, are there anything going on, any plans or anything as far as EduMatch or anything else that you may be currently working on that you'd like to share?
There's there's quite a change coming to my life, and I will be announcing that shortly. But I'll tease it out here that my Twitter pin profile, pin tweet says that right now it's a season of transformation, and it is. a season of great personal transformation. So I'll leave it at that. There'll be more coming, probably in late June, early July. Some folks might already know, but but things are shifting. There's going to be a big shift in my world coming soon. And regarding EduMatch, then we're hoping to still continue to grow it and still continue to evolve over time. So definitely for anybody who's listening or watching, then please, come check us out. Come join the fam.
For sure, for sure. Well, thanks for sharing that. But before we go, Sarah, this has been a great conversation. But definitely, these are the last questions that I love to end with. Just something to end a little lighter note. Very similar to what Rochelle does on the show. Sometimes they do, put the questions out there. Or Melody puts questions out there. But one of my questions that I love to ask my guests here is, right now, currently in the state of education, what would you currently say is your edu kryptonite right now?
Whoo, Edu Kryptonite. My goodness, that is a good one. I would say time. Time and opportunity, but not opportunity in the sense of lacking opportunity, opportunity in the fact that there's so many opportunities out there and trying to find the time to do them all. Because I want to do it all, but I'm horrible a lot of times when it comes to time management, and I'm horrible when it comes to prioritization. So those are my kryptonite right now because I really do want to do it all, but sometimes you just gotta like sometimes you can't, sometimes you gotta like listen to your body, listen to your schedule, listen to your priorities. So but yeah, really just just looking forward to finding that balance. I know it doesn't really exist, but a better balance, I would say, of
There you go. All
yeah.
right. That's good. That's good. Definitely some sound advice there, something that's needed because oftentimes, I consider myself a multi passionate learner. Like I love to dip my toes in everything and want to learn all of the things, but sometimes there isn't enough time in the day to get all that done and you got to prioritize. But yeah, definitely time is definitely one of those. All right. Next question. If you could make one of your hobbies into a profession, which hobby would it be?
That one would probably be music. Music, yeah. I haven't had a chance to really do my music as much as I wanted to, but yeah, music is like my life force and it's been lacking. It's been lacking. I need to make time for it.
All right, all right, excellent. So, as far as music is concerned, is it playing instruments? Is it DJing? Which one would it be?
A little all of the above. Like I would say primarily I'm a singer, but I have DJ'd like for many, many, many years to get my music fixed in, and I'm always trying to learn a new instrument. But like the last few years I've been really lacking when it comes to all that. So, yeah, hopefully one day I'll get it back.
All right, all right. And now the last question: if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Hmm, that's great. You have the tough questions today. Um, let me see. I guess I guess kinda going back to our theme of connection, build deeper connections, like, get to know people, be a little vulnerable, and I know that part people have to use their discretion because sometimes some spaces are not safe, but being willing and open to being vulnerable and getting to making new friends, like, I think that is, that would be the one piece of advice that would have, and probably all that wouldn't fit on the billboard, but that's kind of the message if you could boil it down to its essence.
There you go. It's just the power connections. Connect, connect, connect. All right. Sounds great. Well, Sarah, it has been a pleasure. It's been an honor. Like I said, myself, I'm kind of like starstruck per se because,
Oh, likewise.
I'm a longtime follower of your work and love what you do, love what you've been able to do, and just the inspiration behind it. That I know if I'm feeling inspired by what you're doing, I know that there are many other educators that are out there that'll definitely find inspiration in what you're doing. So I want to thank you, seriously, like sincerely, for being on the show and just, giving us some time, telling us your story, and just inspiring other educators that are out there right now that may need just that little fire lit again, fanning that flame, because we know right now it's a little bit tough out there, as we all know. But thank you so much for spending a little bit of your Saturday with me today and with all our guests. And guys, thank you so much, as always, for being part of the show. Thank you so much for those of you that did participate today in the chat. Those of you that are going to be rewatching or re-listening to this episode, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making my EdTech life what it is today. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us, to give us some feedback on our webpage. Any feedback that you can give will help us always bring you the best and to improve anything that you may see that may need improving. I'm all for it, because we always want to, well, I always want to give you the best. I know I always say we, but I always want to give you the best of me each and every time. So thank you so much for making us part of your Saturday this morning. Again, big shout out to Dr. Sarah Thomas for being an amazing guest. Make sure you follow her on Twitter. Make sure you connect with her on all the, all socials, as you will see on the episode page coming up shortly, within about 30 minutes or so. So you'll be able to catch that. And again, thank you so much for making us part of your morning. But until next time, my friends, don't forget, stay techie.